Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As always, this is your host Mello, and for today we're going to be doing something a little different. I know you guys know me more as the camera tech guy, but something special just happened and the full trailer for Evil Dead Burn just dropped. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts and some of my hopes for the movie when it comes out in its entirety. I wanted to film this right now while the thoughts were in my head. So if you're interested, please stay tuned, and I hope you like today's video. Now, before we start today's video, I just wanted to take the beginning aspect of it to just acknowledge Bruce Campbell. He's pushing 67 this year, and as of March 26th, he did let some of his fans know that unfortunately he's battling what he titles a treatable but not curable cancer. I know cancer, it's just the plague on this world, so, you know, friggin' Ash William himself, Bruce Campbell, if you could take just a couple minutes, whether you believe in God, if not, just give the man some prayers, send some positive vibes his way. Like, let's hope that Bruce Campbell can make a epic comeback, a full recovery from it. That's how I want to start this video, just by acknowledging that gentleman and wishing him some really thoughtful prayers towards his recovery. Evil Dead as a series, as a whole, it's just had such an impact on my life that when I saw the full trailer for Evil Dead Burn, I just wanted to share my thoughts and opinions with it. If we don't see eye to eye on things, keep in mind this is my subjective opinion. None of it's grounded in facts. I guess my mindset when it comes to Evil Dead comes from a different place, and I'll share that with you. So if we don't quite agree on things, or if I say something that does upset you, feel free to stay to the end of the video. I might address it later on, and then feel free to share your thoughts, and I'll happily engage with you in the comments, and maybe we can try to find some common ground. Hopefully. I think the pacing of the trailer was good for what they gave us. It's going to surround around a family. I think that's the themes they've been going for. Evil Dead Rise was about a family. Evil Dead Burn about a family on a family tragedy as well. It looks like based off of the storyline, like I think it's the son. Oh, if you do hear audio from outside, I'm right outside a busy street, so you'll occasionally hear a car or so. So apologies in advance if the audio isn't the best, right? It looks like it's going to be a continuation of Evil Dead Rise, probably in the same universe versus like the older films. And I feel like those older films might be their own thing, if that makes sense, because we haven't got Mr. Ash Williams established yet. So I think Evil Dead Rise, Evil Dead Burn are happening in the same universe, because in the trailer, I believe it goes back to the lake sequence. You see the girl who was a deadite floating from the waters. It looks like she's tipping over someone who might have been fishing. And I don't know if that's going to be the dad in the new film. It almost looks like if he's wearing like a little cap or something. This is just me speculating. But that could be the grounds to why he becomes a deadite. Maybe he gets like scratched or bitten or something. And he becomes a deadite and then infects what would be the second girl, the one that was in the trailer. Again, these thoughts are in my head. I apologize for the randomness. But a nice shout out to the poster of Evil Dead 2013 when you had Mia walking in the streets and her boots were kind of inward. I think that's like a little call out to Evil Dead 2013. I'll try to put it on screen, but the framing of it, I think that was pretty nice. What is probably going to be the second person to become a deadite. I need to look at these characters' names because I do not know any of them, so I apologize. I'm going to be just describing what I saw in the trailer. She pulls out what appears to be the headrest of a car seat, like from her chin to her neck, and she's like pulling it out. Like that was pretty crazy. I was like, okay. Um, the violence, I think when we're talking Evil Dead, for the most part, you always want to, how do I say this? You always want to lean more towards the practicals, if possible. I think there's the sequence where they slam the door on their fingers, and it looks like they have the dummy fingers. Then you go in for the close up, and I could be wrong. This is just my interpretation of it. It looks like they go for like a computer generated, and then they like pop off. I was like, okay, that was kind of a little, you know, keep it practical. If they can keep Evil Dead Burn 90% practical, beautiful. If they can blend in the CGI, where I'm asking myself, hey, is this CGI? Is this practical? Then beautiful. In the teaser trailer, they kind of show what I assume is going to be one of the main characters. She's kind of doing this army crawl, right? As chaos is happening around her. The sequence was cool. It was new. I don't think we've seen that in any of the Evil Dead films or TV shows, for that matter. It kind of, if you really think about it, you're asking yourself, like, girl, like, stand up, right? I didn't see no leg injury, but I get it. I get it. It's a direction of either the cinematographer or director combined to come up with that sequence. It was good, but if you start thinking about it, it is a little silly. But I applaud them for that, right? The one thing that I didn't like about, again, jumping back and forth. Sorry, guys. We're gonna have to, in the editing, I'll try to make it more streamlined, right? In Evil Dead Rise, I wasn't a big fan of the main Deadite's voice, the mother. If you look back at the original Evil Dead films, and for what they were around that date, like the voices that they were using to alter it, like it sounded terrifying. As a kid, even as a grown-up still watching those films, like the voices those Deadites make in the earlier films were just, like, I loved it because it was so scary. In Evil Dead Rise, you can kind of tell that the Deadite mom, it's a little bit more morphed in the editing room, I guess you can say that. Even the other Deadites that later in the film, as they become possessed, the voice just, it wasn't quite there for me. And again, just my opinion. Don't crucify me for it. If you like those voices, perfect, right? Beautiful. I bring this up because in the Evil Dead Burn trailer, we get a quick glimpse of the second Deadite girl's voice, and I forget what she says, but when she says it, and if you're listening to that bad boy on computer speakers, I'd imagine headphones, or in a theater, like that rumble, that lowness that it gets, it was beautiful to me. Like that was perfect. And I hope they keep that with the other Deadites too. Just give them these like terrifying voices that when you hear it, you get chills. I think in the trailer we were getting little glimpses of what I call the big bad. And what I mean by the big bad, that's basically the boss of the Evil Dead films, because what Evil Dead 2013 did with Mia's character, and when you thought the film was over, they brought out the big bad, the freaking abomination, and man, that was beautiful writing, because we all thought it was over. I thought it was over. Evil Dead Rise kind of did that same concept by bringing what I thought was a successfully disgusting monster. And if you think about it at its core, it's kind of horrifying, but it's the mom and the children, and if I'm not mistaken, some of even the apartment people just coming together to make this glob of a creature. The only thing was the monster wasn't as menacing, because it was introduced. It surprisingly did not kill any of the other side characters. I mean, the apartment complex at that point was already demolished. Talking back to Evil Dead Rise. So, in terms of threat level, like that thing was, if we're talking Grand Theft Auto terms, what is that like? When you're on the police scale, I would say the threat level was like a 2-star, where the Abomination versus Mia was like, that bad boy was like a 4 or 5-star. That thing was unstoppable. We got a glimpse of what I think is going to be the big bad in Evil Dead Burn, and maybe I'll try to show some little screenshots of some sort. I'm hoping that guy does some damage. That demon. I hope that entity is mean. It puts our main characters through some hell and back, if that's going to be the climax of the last 20-30 minutes of the film. I'm hoping the Deadites do damage. I think that's one of my main critiques for this whole video, is that I want Evil Dead Burn to go back to its like grisly, freaking intense ways. Evil Dead is never about the gore, but Evil Dead is also about the gore, if that makes sense. So, there's another sequence in the trailer. Okay, here's a fun one, We gotta praise it, we gotta hate it a little bit. So, second Deadite girl, she's possessed, and she walks over to the candle, right? And she's drinking the hot wax. So I thought that was a little silly, a little corny, only because I don't believe candle wax gets that hot. And it's unfair to nitpick. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you think about these sequences and she's drinking it and it's supposed to be scary, the hot wax and they add the little steam coming out of it, I thought that was a little bit on the sillier side. So I'm not going to cap on it too much. Obviously, I'm going to be one of those first people week one watching this movie to get my own input on it, and then hey, we can do another follow-up video on that and get the whole 9 yards, right? But as a trailer, that was one of those small things that took me out of it. Had it been a different way, like let's say if she were to walk over to a boiling pot, and I know they probably would not do that, because you look at the trailer for Evil Dead Rise, and she was doing the same thing, walking over to a pot, and she just starts cracking those eggs. But I would feel that would give it more cause to be more terrifying, right? Because when you look back at Evil Dead 2013 with Mia when she became a Deadite, and this is just my subjective opinion, but that was probably one of the best Deadites we got. Don't get me wrong, the mom was a crazy Deadite, but Mia from Evil Dead 2013, chef's kiss. She was the best modern day Deadite that we got. Sidetracking again, if we look back to that shower sequence where she's just burning herself with like boiling hot water, that made sense. Had they did that in Evil Dead Burn, something that would be a little bit more harsher, I think it would have made that little sequence in the trailer just a little bit more believable, more better. Because I think it's been proven that when these demons, when they possess you and you're doing damage to your body, I don't know if it's been explained, but once the demon leaves your body and you're no longer a Deadite, it seems to me that you just miraculously recover your wounds. Because Mia in 2013, she had the burn, the boiling hot water burns on her face, and then when they, spoiler alert, when they resurrect her, she's suddenly back to her normal self. So I feel like in Evil Dead Burn, if they did something that would, that small segment, if they did something a little bit more believable, she could receive the burns that she does from drinking whatever it would have been, boiling hot water, boiling oil, and then assuming the Deadite leaves her body and she comes back to being a human, her wounds would be healed, right? That's how it works. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, they could they could try to make it a little bit more believable. The cinematography definitely looks like it's going to be taking a different direction. If you ask my personal opinion, which I'm going to share with you, I'm sorry, but from what I've seen from the trailers, right? I'm not a big fan of the direction of the cinematography. I still really enjoyed the cinematography of Evil Dead Rise, and one on top of that, Evil Dead 2013, the cinematography was beautiful, even though Evil Dead 2013, at its core, the story was the same story we've seen with the original Evil Dead. But the cinematography, if you have the eye, or if you notice how like the cinematography is, it's different. I can't explain it, but I know some people have described it as how do you say it? It almost looks like it's a standard horror movie using Evil Dead's name. That, I guess, sounds more of like a negative thing, and I can see what they mean. Evil Dead Rise, to me, I can also gravitate towards that idea that these newer Evil Dead films are horror movies using the name Evil Dead. It sounds crazy, and it does sound a little negative, but I'm a huge fan of the Evil Dead franchise, and I'm not gonna put Evil Dead Rise down, right? Because it's a continuation of Evil Dead. Anything we get Evil Dead, it's a win. You got to look at it as Star Wars as well. These new Star Wars films that are coming out, they're not the best thing, but it's also giving Star Wars fans more material. And I hate to put it like that because the Star Wars films have not been the best, you know. Whether it's the TV series, whether it's the movies, they have not been hitting the ball. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, Evil Dead, I believe they've been having a lot more success. Not financially, because those Star Wars films, they make money. Whether they're gonna bomb or what, they're making money, so they have that benefit because they got Disney pockets, right? We're not gonna go there, but back to Evil Dead. I believe they're made in terms of production value. They're made relatively low by Hollywood standards, and because naturally horror movies are always going to gross their profit, and I think that helps because they want a movie that's going to be profitable. If we got an Evil Dead movie that was made for $250 million and that sucker bombed and it grossed like $60 million, then producers, executives, those higher up people, they probably wouldn't be giving us another Evil Dead movie. Just truthfully speaking, that's how it happens sometimes. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Evil Dead Rise was, if I'm not mistaken, a success. And it grossed its budget, meaning it's made its money back and then some. So even if Evil Dead Burn isn't going to be as successful, which I highly doubt, as long as we're getting a continuation, we're getting that story, the storyline or movies in that Evil Dead universe, like as a fan, like I'm not going to complain about that. You would be silly to be complaining like, oh, Evil Dead Rise was trash. It's nothing like Evil Dead. And here's that back and forth, right? Because not even a couple minutes ago, I kind of agree to that thought process. I agree to a certain extent that I'm just hoping that Evil Dead Burn returns to its roots a little bit more, as weird as that might sound. I'm hoping that it's even a better film than Evil Dead Rise. And Evil Dead Rise was a great film. No matter what anyone says, no matter what I say, Evil Dead Rise was that continuation of the Evil Dead series that we needed to be able to get Evil Dead Burn. So I'm happy that it did its thing. I'm just hoping that Evil Dead Burn goes above and beyond, right? Whether it's the storyline, whether it's the actors doing their part to like sell the madness of it all. I'm hoping that Evil Dead Burn just does 10 times better in terms of getting its money, in terms of the crowds, the rewatchable value of it. I'm really hoping that it succeeds, right? Because to me, that's what Evil Dead 2013 brought. If you watch Evil Dead 2013, and we're not here to compare, but it has a super high rewatchable value. Whether, again, you're a first timer or you're a seasoned veteran fan, like the 2013 Evil Dead, I could watch so much more than Evil Dead Rise. As crazy as that's gonna sound, I know a lot of people might not agree with my opinion, and that's okay. You're more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comments down below, and I do read them, so take that for what you will. I'm rooting for this film. The trailer has me content. Obviously, I want to see more, but do yourself a favor, watch the first trailer, stop right there. It'll leave more excitement for you as new trailers come out. Second trailer, third trailer, sometimes they spoil too much stuff, so be like me, watch the teaser trailer, watch the first trailer, wait until release date. If you can do that. I know it's tough. It's you gotta condition your mind. You gotta be a strong person to do that. But crazy video. I know it's gonna be all over the place. Evil Dead Burn, I am rooting for you. Please, please, please succeed. You got your fan base behind you, both new and old. We're gonna be there week 1, week 3. We're gonna rewatch it. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. That's gonna be all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'm glad. If you have things that you would like to say, counter arguments, please put them in the comments section. My area has always been a good space to communicate, so we're not going to put each other down. And I hope to see you there on release date, July 18th, if I'm not mistaken. Another addition to the Evil Dead franchise, and we'll take them. We'll take all of them. Thank you for watching. I am Mello, and enjoy the rest of your day. Just my own background with the franchise. My mom introduced me and my siblings to Evil Dead when we were little ones, and I'm talking maybe kindergarten, early middle school. I don't remember, but seeing that first film, the OG Evil Dead, it was terrifying. And in a way, if that was my starting point to horror films, right next to what would be like The Exorcist and stuff, then you can imagine that as I grew up and I started like loving horror films, scary movies and whatnot, I wouldn't say that my expectations are high, but if I've seen something from back in the days that was just absolutely terrifying, you can understand that as these newer movies come out, that sometimes they just don't quite hit the mark, right? So Evil Dead, for me, has set this standard that when new movies come out that are part of the horror genre, it's hard to compare or to be like, okay, well, is it gonna be Evil Dead scary? Is it gonna like terrify me like that, right? And it's unfair to do that comparison, My advice to you, if you're a horror movie fan, don't do that, because then you set yourself up for failure. When you go into a movie, scary movies, whatever kind of movie, don't start from a point where you're going to be comparing it to something else that's already been established, right? It's kind of funny because that's what this video is about, but you always want to go in there with like a fresh mind, get your take on it, which is what I'm going to be doing when Evil Dead Burn comes out. I'm going to watch it in its entirety, and then who knows, maybe I'll make another follow-up video with my final thoughts about the film. But just watch it, get your own perspective, your own thoughts about the film, and then from there, feel free to compare it to other media, horror, scary, terrifying, whatever it be, and then you can start comparing it from there, right?